A person's stand reflects a lot about their personality, from the parts they show on the surface to the feelings they bury deep within themselves, and Part 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has some of the best examples of this, with everyone in the main cast having part of their stand reflect their past traumas in one way or another, though one of the best examples of this comes in the form of the ex-cop turned mafioso, Leone Abbacchio, and his stand, Moody Blues. Leone Abbacchio was one of the major characters for Part 5 Golden Wind, acting as both the group's living messenger and detective when they needed him. And while he was rather bitter and aggressive on the surface, he was an extremely hard worker and likely one of Bruno's closest teammates, and without him, Bruno's gang wouldn't have gotten nearly as far as they did, or they would have been at a significant disadvantage in their journey to and hunt for Passione's boss. But before we get too into that, we should discuss the meaning behind his name. Leone Abbacchio, like other names in Part 5, is based on Italian words, with Leone being Italian for lion and Abbacchio being Italian for lamb meat, specifically freshly slaughtered and diced lamb meat. Now, the use of both lion and lamb seems to be in reference to the biblical symbol, that being the lion and the lamb, which represent the messianic age, or the age in which the Messiah would return. Both animals represent Christ in one way or another, with the lamb representing Christ's innocence and his sacrifice for humanity, and the lion being his return, but also the humanity that gobbled up the lamb when he sacrificed himself. And with Abbacchio's given name being Leone, that means he likely mostly represents the lion. And when you look at his relationship with Giorno, who is quite obviously a Christ-like figure in the series, it explains symbolically why the two ended up not seeing eye to eye, and Abbacchio hated and persecuted him all the way. Along with this, it's stated in the book of Isaiah that lions would be forbidden from entering paradise, which is something that we sort of see fulfilled by the end of Part 5, with Abbacchio being not only the first member of the gang to die, which puts him in a group of characters who don't get to see the paradise that Giorno achieves. But most importantly, with his name containing both the lamb and the lion portion, it implies this internal, endless struggle between the lion portion of his name, or the sins, and the lamb portion of his name, his innocence and desires for forgiveness, are constantly at battle within him. He is never at peace, and these feelings exist so strongly in Abbacchio that they visualize themselves in the form of his stand, Moody Blues. Moody Blues is a humanoid stand with a tape recorder aesthetic found throughout its entire design, from its eyes and joints being speakers and its fists being receivers for recordings. You can tell the difference between them because the ones on his hands are actually concave versus the other ones which are sticking out. Along with this, the forehead has a digital timer which can count both forward and backwards. And on top of all that, the stand also apparently wears clothes, wearing both a one-piece leotard with an exposed chest window, and under that is a full-body pair of tights, which cover the stand from head to toe. And this aspect of his design is apparently from some movie that Araki saw while writing Part 5 and working on character designs, though he never specifies which one it is, and there's so many movies that it could have been that I couldn't exactly track down an exact match for Moody Blues itself. Though we know that Moody Blues was always going to have the recorder aesthetic, given that we can see concept art of him back when he was just a regular face with the same eyes. And while I couldn't find anything that was too close to Moody Blues' own outfit, I can say it does seem to reflect Abbacchio's outfit just a bit, with a similar open chest window. And Abbacchio's outfit is actually directly in reference to an outfit from Gucci's Spring 1996 catalog, with one of his poses actually being a direct lift from one of the models in that catalog, and his belt was changed to a large A for Abbacchio instead of G for Gucci. So the outfit that Moody Blues is based on might exist in one of the many Gucci catalogs Rocky was looking through when he was working on Part 5. The one more little detail about the stand is that it is apparently made of, or feels like it's made of, according to Araki, vinyl, which is likely in reference to vinyl records, given how Moody Blues has the ability to play back things. This ability is called rebroadcasting. How rebroadcasting works is Abbacchio is able to use Moody Blues to recreate or replay a moment from the past in a specific location. Once he activates his ability, the timer on Moody Blues' head rewinds to the exact moment that he wants to replay from, and then begins to take the shape of a person Abbacchio specifically wanted to rewind to. Then Moody Blues will reenact everything that person did up until the moment that Moody Blues was activated. On top of that, Abbacchio also can completely control this rebroadcasting of past events, being able to rewind something to see it from a different angle and fast forward through unimportant events, or even pause things in place like a video. On top of all this, Moody Blues will also replay the events and sounds around a character to give an authentic experience to what happened to them, as seen when it plays the music that Narancia was listening to when it rewound to him. Moody Blues is also able to perform seemingly impossible actions as long as they are feasibly possible, such as mimicking the deflation effect of Soft Machine, but they aren't able to mimic things such as teleportation, like when it isn't able to replicate Clash's ability. Moody Blues also takes on the texture and feeling of whatever it's mimicking at the time, as Bruno is able to determine that Narancia was deflated when he feels his finger and realizes that he has the texture of a condom. But on top of all that, what makes Moody Blues such an effective intel gathering stand is that Abbacchio doesn't even need to see what the person looks like to rewind to them, and he just needs to know where they were and what they were doing, as seen when he's able to recreate a random airplane pilot so that they can fly a plane for them, and was able to recreate the face of the boss of Passione by rewinding Moody Blues in the location in which he took a picture nearly 15 years ago. Along with this, he's able to use the ability to copy the appearance of a person when it's rewound as a way to disguise Moody Blues, but it only really works on stand users, and we only see it pulled off against Aluso. There's only 3 real weaknesses for Moody Blues, and one of them is the fact that the stand itself is not exactly combat focused, as its ability doesn't add onto its destructive force at all, and it's only as strong, if not a little bit weaker, than Abbacchio himself. But that's not too terrible a downside, as Abbacchio is the physically strongest member in Bruno's gang, according to Araki, which translates quite well when Moody Blues basically mops the floor with Man in the Mirror and Aluso at the same time, and was only beat because Aluso cheated. On top of that, his other 2 weaknesses are a lot more apparent. The first, of course, being that Moody Blues is unable to fight or react when it is rewinding, leaving Abbacchio basically defenseless in a stand battle, and this can be an issue, especially when he's rewinding a long ways back. The further back he has to rewind, the longer it takes to fully rewind, with us getting a rough estimate that Abbacchio needs at least 8 to 10 minutes of focus to rewind roughly 15 years. And without that protection, it leads him to be exposed to any enemy's attack, which is exactly what led to his downfall. Now, Moody Blues gets its name from the 1964 English rock band, the Moody Blues, who became popular and were somewhat the founders or pioneers of the art rock and progressive rock movement in music, combining rock with classical music to create a truly unique sound. And this is best seen in the band's second album and their first real hit, Days of Future Past, which was released November 10th of 1967 and was made during a time of financial difficulties for the band where they were worried about their futures due to the lack of any critical or commercial success. Then while they were down at their luck, their parent company offered them a second chance to record an album, with the stipulation that they would have to combine their music with orchestral or classical interludes. The band agreed to this and forged a concept for the album, this being to compress an entire day of an everyman's life into a single album, starting from dusk till dawn. Though one of the biggest additions to this album's development was the use of a mellotron, which is a very unique instrument, which functions basically like a keyboard, but each key plays a sound off a magnetic tape, which is similar to those used in VHSs or cassettes. The sound itself is a recording of another instrument, so they used this instrument to help them create a truly unique sound that helped their album stand out, and it worked. While not initially at release, thanks to radio play, Days of Future Past became a huge financial success for the Moody Blues and helped elevate their status in the music industry. And a lot of this album's history we can see influencing Moody Blues' ability, as not only do you have the fact that Days of Future Past album is about compressing time into a physical form to be replayed by the listener, which is almost exactly how Moody Blues' ability works, but specifically the use of a mellotron on the album reinforces this idea, as a mellotron is an instrument that plays pre-recorded sounds of other instruments to make a unique sound. Moody Blues is a stand that plays pre-recorded actions of another person to give its user a unique perspective on a scenario. And on top of all of that, similar to when the band fell on hard times but were offered a second chance which led to the creation of their album, Abbacchio fell on even worse and harder times, but Bruno extended his hand for a second chance, which then led to the creation of his stand. Speaking of that, Moody Blues is the best representation of its own user's mental trauma, as before the events of Part 5, Abbacchio was a lot more nice. He was an innocent young adult who joined joined the police force in Naples to pursue and uphold the law, helping those in need and making the world a safer place. And even though he risked his life every day to make sure that the citizens of his town were safe, he wasn't respected at all by the everyday people, and they slowly beat down his ideals until he found himself taking bribes and becoming another dirty cop. Though one day, when he was called to a break-in with his partner, Abbacchio found himself face to face with a man who he took a bribe from, and insisted on arresting him and doing the right thing this time. The man drew a gun with intent to kill Abbacchio, but his partner dove in the way, taking a fatal blow for Abbacchio and dying in his place. The criminal was then arrested, but snitched on Abbacchio, and he was later dismissed from service due to him being found out for being a dirty cop. And not only did that firing ruin Abbacchio's credibility, but the fact that his own actions led to the death of his partner caused Abbacchio to fall deeper and deeper into depression, replaying the events in his head over and over again, blaming himself every time and falling deeper and deeper into despair, which is when a man approached him and offered him a second chance. This man became his new driving force, and he would live to serve him in every way he can, working tirelessly to get any job he was given by him done. And even though he became a man who worked for results, Abbacchio's soul is that of someone who desired truth, which is seen best in the fact that his stand can replay the exact event that happened to someone so that Abbacchio can investigate it and get it from every angle. Though, he was never truly able to escape his demons when he was alive, and he hated himself almost the entire way through the part, and we can see this represented best in his anger towards Giorno, a kid who he sees a lot of himself in, someone who has big dreams and desires for the world and is even talking big and acting cocky, but he's endangering himself, and Abbacchio can see the exact moments that ruined him every time Giorno does something reckless. Though, in Abbacchio's dying moments, his mind, which used to torture him endlessly with visions of his past failings, brings him face to face with a man who he got killed. A rookie cop who reminded him a lot of himself when he first joined the force. Someone who wasn't looking for results in a world where results can be changed at the end. He wanted the truth, something unchangeable and a fact of life. And instead of Abbacchio being damned by the man that he got killed, the police officer looks him in the eyes and tells him how proud he is of him. And for the man that Abbacchio has been beating himself up over for all these years to tell him how proud he is of him, is in a way Abbacchio accepting and forgiving himself for his actions. He was someone who worked hard to bring the truth to light in a physical form. Even if he didn't realize it, Abbacchio, after getting his stand, was following his internal drive to do good, the same drive that led him to becoming a police officer in the first place. He was always looking for the truth in a situation and not the results. And that's exactly what he does. Using the last bit of his life force, Abbacchio has Moody Blues burn into the side of the stone monument the face of Passione's boss, which results in the gang meeting Polnareff and overall defeating that said boss. Abbacchio's story is in fact a microcosm of one of the overall messages of Part 5, which is truth versus results, and it makes him such a pivotal character in the part, even if he is the first of the main cast to die and isn't involved in a lot of fights. He adds a very nice dynamic to the group, with him being the more stoic figure among the more loud and colorful figures in Bruno's gang. Though unfortunately, due to his more stoic nature, Abbacchio hasn't been so lucky with appearances outside of media other than manga. He's sadly very criminally underused or straight up cut out of every JoJo game that he'd appear in, but his deeper connection with Part 5 and Bruno as a whole is why I feel that he was one of the 3 Part 5 characters picked to appear in Jolene Flies High with Gucci, a short story which our Passion gangsters get to take the role of government workers, which is actually a great final act of redemption for Abbacchio, as even though Fly High with Gucci isn't a canon story, of course, it's nice to see him, this bitter, broken-hearted ex-cop, become a government secret agent in his final real appearance since his death. Maybe it was just a subtle way of Rocky letting us know that Abbacchio has been forgiven for all his sins. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ManyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to relive all the good moments in your life, you can do so by buying a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com.